This is Doug from 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast, coming at you with a new episode of the Chickenhead Chronicles. This week, I'm actually reviewing a game, Abbey de Mort, that was published by Double-Sided Games. I'll put a link in the description with the publisher's information, website, everything like that, and I'll also, of course, put it right down here. Now, I don't normally review games on 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast, but I leave that for Lorfarius at Amigarama, John and Aaron from the Amigos Podcast, and I'll put links to their podcasts and their websites down here and in the description too for all your Amiga-related games. But for Commodore stuff like VIC-20, C64, I'm happy to do some reviews here. Now this game was released several years ago on some other platforms. It was available, let's see, Mega Drive, Spectrum, Genesis, and a couple of other platforms, I think. But who cares? Because this week it came out for the Commodore 64. Now, pre-orders have been available for a little while now, a month or two. And you could order the cartridge version, which I ordered, or the disc version, or you can order the digital download. Cartridges are sold out. Disc version, as of the time of this recording, there was like 15 or 18 left. So maybe if you jump on it quick enough, you can get the actual disc copy. Now the cool thing is, if you pre-ordered it, like the cartridge version like I did, you get a link to download the .d64 file, which is what I did, and I just love it. Now, the game is not copy protected. Don't copy the game and give it to your friends. It's $10 online. These guys worked hard for a year or so to produce this game for us, okay? Don't copy it. We're not 15 years old anymore. This isn't the 1980s. We've all got jobs. We're all adults here. Buy the game. I've already provided the link. I'll put it in the description too. Just buy it. $40 for the disc version, I think, and $10 for the download version. Buy it. Enough of that. Now, I was able to use this digital version on my Commodore 64 Mini, which I've got connected to my widescreen TV in the living room. Works perfect. Looks beautiful on the C64 Mini. So if you've got a Mini, you're covered with this game. Get the digital version, slap it on a USB drive, you're golden. I've also used it on my Pi 1541, which is what I've got it running on the background here with. Works absolutely flawlessly. There's a special version that's designed for that type of platform, the SD to IEC and the Pi 1541s. Comes with it, works great. You can also use your favorite utility to create an actual floppy disk. Now, I'm not going to bother doing that because I'll have the cartridge in a couple of days and I got the digital copy. Now, about the game. You play a young Obi-Wan Kenobi. Take a look. Okay, maybe it's not really Obi-Wan Kenobi. But it'd be kind of cool going after the Crusaders with a lightsaber. You got to admit, that'd be kind of neat. But in this game, you actually play a 13th century Cathar. They are clerics who preached about the poverty of Christ and defended life without material aspirations, and they were treated as heretics by the Catholic Church and expelled out of the Languedoc region of France. One of them, named Jean Raymond, found an old church in which to hide from the Crusaders, not knowing that beneath the ruins lay buried an ancient evil. Okay, that's probably enough extra flourishment there, Douglas. So, the intro to the game is fantastic. You can see it playing in the background there. We can turn up a little bit of music here. Sound for the intro is beautiful. Neat lightning effects. Tells you Saul Cross did the graphics and sound. And Locomalito and Grisor 87 did the game. Published by Double-Sided Games. So, let's get busy on actually looking at some footage of the game itself. In the game, you play as Jean Raymond, and he has no attacks at all, no ability to attack anything. Everything's about avoiding enemies and solving the fairly straightforward puzzles each room offers as you search for 12 crosses, which represent the 12 brothers who died in this abbey years ago. Jean Raymond can jump as good as Mario can, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, movement of Jean is totally fluid. As you can see, you can control his jumps in midair, and that's an absolute lifesaver, being able to stop and start a jump. And the enemies all move in set patterns. So it's the kind of the game where you're looking at the patterns of how the enemies are moving on the screen, left, right, up, and down, and you have to time where you go and what you do in order to get past the enemies. No killing them at all. And in the church, you find some clues hidden around the old church. You find some old scrolls. I think you saw me pick one up a little bit ago there. And they're good for giving clues about the game, clues about upcoming rooms, and fill in a little bit of backstory about the game, which is kind of nice. And you start the game with 3 lives and no continues at all, so there's no continuing. When you get hit, even a single time, you lose a life and you're sent back to the last tombstone you interacted with. Those are the little pyramid-shaped things with a cross that turns as you walk in front of it. That's like a checkpoint there. Now, extra lives are fairly easy to find in this game. In the first 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, you should find 2 or 3 more extra lives in the form of little hearts that you have to go collect. They're completely optional, but really helpful. And there's also some interactive levers and to open some doors in some secret rooms. And you'll see a couple of the levers in my playthrough here. Now, my opinion of the game. The graphics on this game are absolutely beautiful start to finish. From the introduction, which you saw running a minute ago, and the animations of the characters are fantastic for a Commodore 64. Absolutely beautiful. Like the way that they handled the color palette in that introductory room with the beautiful colors in the windows, just fantastic. And the enemies are nicely designed. They're generally single color sprites, but they're beautifully designed. The animation is just about perfect. The C64 smooth scrolling is working overtime, and there'll be several enemies on the screen at once. You'll have 3, 4, 5, 6 enemies. Perfect pixel scrolling for every single one of them. Not a flicker, not a jump, nothing. It all moves without a hiccup. So graphics, fantastic, beautiful. The music is also fantastic. You can hear the music playing in the background, which is kind of nice because some C64 games, you'd get really nice music at the intro screen and then nothing but sound effects throughout the game. This takes advantage of both. The music often changes from room to room. So, the Abbey or the church will have one theme, the catacombs will have another, the dungeons will have another. And the thing I like about it is the music's not too chippy. It doesn't sound like a science fiction chiptune sound effect. It's good, subtle music that is catchy, but not overwhelming. And that's really perfect. Sound effects are fine. Jumping, enemies dying, everything has its own unique sound, and you'll be hearing the death sound plenty of times. Now, gameplay on this. The game is not what I would call easy. Not hard, but it's not easy, and you'll probably die in the first few rooms as you get used to the controls and the way you play the game. But once you start to recognize the patterns, you'll be able to get through the rooms without much of an issue at all. You'll get in the groove of the game, and it's not particularly hard or cruel either. Some games, like Iridium, for example, I get slaughtered in that to the point where it's almost not even fun trying to learn the ins and outs of the game because you just dead, boom, dead, boom, dead. Now, restarting from your death when you still have extra lives can be a little annoying because sometimes you're sent back 2 or 3 rooms to the previous gravestone that you touched over. But it's not too bad. You get back where you came from within 30 seconds, 45 seconds, a minute. So it's not a big deal. The locations of the graves, the respawning gravestone, they seem fairly well thought out, which is nice. And there's no continues in the game at all. So you lose a life, you lose all your lives, you start the game from scratch. The game, I would guess you could probably, on a normal playthrough, finish it in 25 to 30 minutes. if you're determined. But if you're like me and you're not particularly good at the game and you need to practice each room before you can, really master it, there's a lot of gameplay here, a lot of restarting. And it seems to be replayable in a similar way that Mario's replayable. You play a good Mario game, it's the same game, but you try to get there a little faster. You try to get there without losing lives. You try to find maybe an extra secret or two. And so I think there's a fair amount of replayability. I probably put 2-3 hours into the game. I'm going to easily put in 5 or 10, 15 hours and still be happy with it. And it's great. You can show it off to your friends too. Now, so I've covered all the good things about the game. Complaints about the game, there's not a lot to complain about. I think if they built in a I stink at games, can I play with unlimited lives, that'd be cool as an option for those people who maybe don't have an infinite amount of time but want to see the game through to the end. Just put in an option for unlimited lives or continues. Continues are great, continuing where you left off. But that's about the only complaint. Other than that, the thing runs beautifully. I haven't had a single issue running it on real hardware, emulated hardware. The new 64 Mini just runs perfect. My final thoughts on the game. I would give this thing 5 chicken heads out of 5 without a doubt, without even a single complaint. The presentation, the graphics, the packaging, the professional packaging that it comes in, the audio, it's fantastic for a C64 game in 2019. So do yourself a favor, go out to their website, here it is again, buy this game. You'll get a lot of enjoyment out of this for $10. And the fact that it works on a C64 Mini, that just is opening the game up for a whole new audience of people. Buy the game. You'll love it. So this is Doug from 10 Minute Amiga Retrocast, signing out.